I would like to welcome everyone to the 52nd episode of Money Trees. If you have ever said the words music and NFTs in a sentence, you are probably familiar with today's guest. A pioneer is one who ventures into the unknown or unclaimed territory to settle, one who opens up new areas of thought, research, or development, a soldier who performs construction and demolition work in the field to facilitate troop movements. This man fits all three definitions of the word: a lover of anime, an extremely kind soul, yet rowdy and raucous rager. It is my pleasure to be joined by the aspiring Gundam pilot himself, Black Dave. How are you feeling today, G?
Yo, uh, I'm good. Um, yeah, it's like every day is feels more hectic than the last. But I'm good. I'm great. I'm blessed to be alive. Everyone in my family's doing great. Yeah, man, I'm good. How are you? And thank you for that intro. That was great.
Thank you, thank you. I am blessed, highly flavored, and enjoying life. I'm very, very excited to chop with you today. You've made a name for yourself in the Web3 world, as I mentioned, via your art, thoughts, and expression, primarily on Twitter, though. And while let me open up with giving you the flowers before we get into the shenanigans. Yesterday, yeah, can you tell the people what happened yesterday? What is so momentous that you were a part of?
So, yesterday on Sound.xyz, Snoop Dogg dropped a mix, his second mix on the platform. He included four like sort of Web3 native, Web3 on the ground artists in the mix. There were 1,000 editions sold at point 0.1 Ethereum, and I was one of the artists included in that mix. Actually, my record is first, like in that section, so that was fire.
Whoo, whoo, Snoop D-O double G. And I mentioned it like, yo, one of the things that I was thinking about when I approached this episode was like, what can we talk about that you have not already covered? You are prolific in these spaces. But I saw something go on earlier today that I think I want to start there because it needs to be said, it needs to be documented, it needs to be highlighted. I'll tell you, Dave, we've had a bunch of conversations offline and a couple online, but I don't think you have an ego. I think that the names that you deserve to be associated or that you have earned the right to be associated with in this space are the names that are operating in the upper echelon of Web3 and music NFTs. Where do you think people got it twisted at? Homie, what did homie tweet at you talking about the ego? Like, oh my fucking days. Let's jump into that.
All right, so this is what happened. Um, so first thing that happened was someone for the sound drop. Um, Someone had botted the drop and had gotten like over 100 of the NFT, right? Which speaks to like the demand for it, right? Like to even run a bot on it lets you know that someone's willing to spend like fucking 10 ETH, you know, or whatever to do it. So one wallet pretty much amassed all these NFTs, and there's a dude, he's in my comments like in my mentions as they say on Twitter, talking about like, well, the Snoop Dogg drop, is a flop. The records are mediocre, and he just needs to smoke weed and make mid music essentially. And I'm like, yo, the thing is like this is super impactful for Web3. The music isn't mid. You never cared about the music to begin with. If you're only worried about what the floor price of the NFT is, and so move along, sir. And and so then somebody else commented and was like, "Well, you haven't dropped on Sound in months. You haven't dropped in 2 months. When are you dropping on Sound? You need to be more like Daniel Allen and RAC and how they drop." And I was like, this motherfucker got me fucked up today. I don't know what happened. It was a beautiful morning. I was playing Apex. I got a top 10 finish. I was texting my girl. She sent me a beautiful video of her hair. Like it was a great morning. And and yeah, I was just like, I like quote tweeted it, and I was like, yo, first of all, last week I dropped an EP that I produced with Matt Monday. The week before that, I dropped an EP on Mint Songs. Um, a couple weeks before that, I had dropped something else. I don't remember what it was. And then I said, next week I'm airdropping my collectors a bunch of shit. In 2 weeks, I'm dropping kudos, and I'm the last drop on sound this season, which happens in June. And then like, I tried to continue my day, but I felt away, and so I just had to like talk my shit real quick. Cause like I feel like I agree with you, right? Like I feel like you can name anyone who makes music in the space, and I hold up innovatively. I hold up in terms of quality of music. I hold up in terms of like recognition in the space. Like I've been like coming up with new ideas. I've been speaking on panels. I've been onboarding people. I've been running spaces. I've been consulting with people for free, for money. I've been like in research articles. I like have all the shit that I've done, and y'all want to be like, oh, but you're not Daniel Allen or RAC. And it's like, first of all, these niggas had bread before they enter Web3. I was just telling Monday, my bank account was negative until the Snoop Dogg drop. And it has been negative for like a week leading up to that. Like, I'm not where these niggas are, and I'm still doing what these niggas are doing. And I just feel like, you know, I try to like go for stuff and do stuff and be like actually on a peer level, like externally with these people, and then everyone just like doesn't recognize it and doesn't accept it. And I look at, people that I consider peers, they can break the rules on websites. They can break the rules when they drop. They have like this crazy amount of following. They have all the like whale collectors as their collectors. I have like none of them as my collectors. Anytime I try to like do something unique on a site, it doesn't work out for me. Anytime I try to do something unique in a situation, like, but then everyone's like, "Oh, you're the most important figure in music NFTs," and I'm like, "Am I? Because you don't
Make it
treat me
make
like it."
sense. Make
Yeah.
it make
So,
sense.
man, I was hot this morning. I calmed down a little bit, but yeah, it's just crazy. And I feel like niggas are asking me to go on my Yeezus tour, right? They're asking me to be like, okay, I made the Nike Yeezy, I made the Yeezy 2, I did the APC collection, I did the fashion collection, I did two Louis Vuitton sneakers, I got 20 Grammys. Like, I feel like people are asking me to do that, but then when you do it, everyone's like, oh, look at all that ego. Meanwhile, Kanye's a $10 billion nigga right now. Is it ego or is he right? Like, come on. That's how I feel.
Whew. You said earlier. I've been quoting tweets recently on the show. And this ain't even a throwback one. I do got some throwback ones, maybe if we get to them later. But imagine listing off the things you've done and feel you deserve respect for doing, and someone minimizes it to ego. A lot of times I hate when you have to do well, what have you done lately? Like you out here sitting on Twitter judging me, saying I got blah 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 blah. But where are your contributions? What are you doing to push this space forward outside of coming at me for the shit that clearly people are fucking with that I got going on? And I think that is it's funny because I've said it before that I think WAGMI is bullshit. That the idea of we're all gonna make it does not actually make sense because some people are going to be outworked for sure. And when you preach this level of everyone is going to be successful and rich, it creates a lot of delusion in the space. It creates a lot of entitlement where you're not willing to put in the hours upon hours and deal with the it's a lot of ego death, honestly, in here. Because I'll tell it for you. You've written at lengths about how hard it was for you to have certain sales go on, and then you look at those the numbers that happened when you talked about the struggles, and it becomes like, damn, like why is the support not translating? I don't have the answers. I really don't. I'm still I've seen success in the traditional Web 2 music industry, and I understand the powers that be and kind of the paradoxical nature of the music industry where it's like, yo, nobody wants to support you until you're hot, but to get hot, you need the support from people, and it takes these really ill storytelling elements mixed in with a little bit of luck, mixed in with just the perfect timing and the random share that you didn't expect to happen. And so I get a lot of how the shit works in quote unquote Web 2. I've been a student of Web 3 for the better part of a year, from whenever I had first started writing my article on cultural investing. And I'm still not 100% sure how you make it in this space if you're not a self advocate. And this really has not been much of an interview to start off. I definitely wanted to let you talk your shit because the whole point of Money Trees is planting seeds. And I'm going to love when people listen back to this episode a year from now, 5 years from now, and hear the passion in your voice, but also what you had to deal with as you were, as I said at the onset, pioneering in this fucking space. You know, you talked about how you have a Discord NFT that has governance. You have the and I'm blanking on the name of it, so please tell me, but the NFT that you allow people to purchase that they can trade in for the verse later.
Verse. Yeah, I just
Like,
call it a verse token. Yeah. I
bro,
didn't
the
even list
verse
that.
token. The verse token. Like I'm again, it's tough for me to say that when anyone actually was the full first, but you made that popular to me in my circle. And I'm like, damn, that shit is genius. All the different ideas I had for the space, like that one never even crossed my mind. Then you brought that up, and I'm like, yo, that's another really ill investment. Whereas, like, yo, do you like my stuff now? Cool. You're a musician on the come up. Buy it now at the low. Wait and see what happens. You can Anyway, G,
One of the homies,
innovation.
one of the homies did a verse token and it sold for 1.5 Ethereum like
Boom.
last month. So like it's a real concept. Mine sold for zero point 0.3 last year. It's almost been a year since I dropped that. And $1,000 is crazy, don't get me wrong. But looking at how like people are really doing it, I know Jazzy did it too recently. I hear that people are going to be doing it with production. Like, it's not, I don't care about being first. I think being first is cool. I just care about good ideas. And so it's cool to see good ideas that I like got to be a part of or got to start or got to trendset or whatever fucking term. Like it's cool to see other people win using things that I've built or ideas that I've come up with.
One of the main things I agree with all of that, by the way. But one of the main things I wanted to touch on is the fact that people associate you, even I said at the start, with music and NFTs, but you're so much more than that. Pioneer in this space, leading the way through music NFTs first. You're more of a creative director from the anime inspirations, from the articles that you write on the space, from the records, again, from these. You said it doesn't even matter about being first, it's about contributing really, really good ideas to the space. Let's get into some more of the seed planting. You have a project that you're working on with Monday. Can you talk about that project?
Yeah. So Matt Monday and I have been working on music together for about a decade. And I would say like the peak project leading up to it has been this album that we've been working on for maybe the past 4 or 5 years. You know, we had a version of it that existed that had like a notable producer on it. We have a version of it that exists that has only stuff we've produced on it. We have a version of it that exists right now that's going to be coming out soon called Kudos, which comes with a which is an NFT music release that we've also tied to a physical product. And the physical product is a box of popcorn with a comic book. And the box itself actually has augmented reality on it today, but we're also going to be adding AR to the comic book in the future. And we'll be updating the AR that goes on the box as time passes as well. And so, we're creating a community around that, and we're creating like a larger what I call an umbrella company called Project Pharos that sometimes I'll say is like the Johnson and Johnson of of like what we hope to build, where we're just creating a bunch of products under this umbrella. And so with this specific one, we'll be releasing the album, we'll be releasing these augmented reality experiences, then you'll be receiving an NFT. It's gonna, grant you experiences related to the rest of what Project Pharaohs does. And so the music's crazy, the artwork's amazing, the AR is good, the concept is new. We were when we were at South by Southwest, so we've been like taking the actual packaging on tour pretty much. When we were at South by Southwest and Matt went to NFTLA, we had people working at brands hitting us up. We had people working at labels hitting us up. We had artist managers hitting us up. We had product companies hitting us up. Like, yo, we want to talk to you guys about this idea. No one has been able to figure out a proper physical digital like NFT experience, and you guys have it, And like me going on my rant about being fired. It's like we came up with this idea together. Like we like it would start. Matt would say, "I want to do this." I'd say, "Okay, cool." As an NFT, you could do da 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 da, and then be like, "All right, cool," and we would keep bouncing back and forth. And so with that, even with this, a lot of kudos is Matt's work. And I definitely am sitting in this like co-chair with him, right? Like we're like pretty much creative directing this idea, as well as the music, as well as the content. Um, Literally, like I'm editing some of the like content that we'll be releasing. Hopefully today, actually, I realized I made a mistake on one of my Photoshop files, but it is what it is. And like we're just building interesting shit because experience is what's going to win at the end of the day. And I feel like people are so wrapped up in money that they don't realize that experience is the real victory of Web3.
Whew. Bars. Long term value provided through experiences. Man, again, I said this hasn't been much of an interview, but you really, I was hot for you when I saw some of that shit today, because I'm looking at this just thinking like, yo, did he not just put out get on a mix with Snoop? Like, what are you talking about? Ego. That's the best cosign as far as anyone from Web 2 getting into this space and transitioning well. Like Snoop's been doing it. You could say he might be a little heavy handed with the amount of metaverse work, but still, like going at it from a way that empowers artists that are in here. Talking about innovation, brands saying, yo, we have not figured this shit out. We need to learn from your example, your blueprint. And now maybe I could be wrong, but I would bet they were hitting you up and asking you ideas before offering to pay you. And
Always.
and it's like, yo, shit is tough. Shit, and I don't want to turn this into I know you're actually talking on it later, like, oh, what's wrong with music NFTs? To me, those conversations get stale pretty quickly because it's always the same things. And I don't, it's like, I don't know how we fix it. And that, I guess that becomes kind of like the scary thing because it's like, damn, are we just doomed to repeat so much of the failures and so much of the things Ed has his running from Web 2 into Web 3 drop? But I love that concept. It's like so many people are running from Web 2 into this new space, but it's like, are we doomed to repeat a lot of the same issues, a lot of the same problems that were propagated up there? The reality of the effort that's needed to succeed in Web 3 is often ignored. I would say that's something that I don't hear people talk about, where it's like, oh, you just have to do this and then it worked. And like you mentioned it, a lot of y'all had bread and connections before some other shit went on. I'm gonna be real, like yo, I've talked to people that work with Daniel Allen, his TikTok, Henry, my guy Tim, who did some of the TikTok stuff, like some other people. Seems like a great dude. You had one of the biggest NFT influencers in the space work with you on that crowd fund, yo. That's a cosign most people are not afforded. That's not a blueprint for the average musician. That's not anyone for y'all to look up to and say, look what is possible, because that wasn't man, it's tough. It's tough. Because then also with the space, it's like, I'm not a hater. I'm just speaking on facts. And if you think that sounds like, hey, and I don't know, tell me what I think the dude is great. Music is cool. Like at the end of the day, if you had a cosign from this person who was the one of the leaders in thought of that number wise too. Because I'll tell you what, Black Dave, I've looked at some of Homeboy's tweets and I'm like, I've seen this before. I don't know how original these thoughts are. And again, not trying to turn this into this type of episode, but I was just looking at that shit earlier today. And your name, right? Black Dave. Let's be real. You already know there's going to be a section of people that once they see that, they already not fucking with it.
Yep.
And a lot of those people are people that got bread in the space. Man, I was and see, I'm tangenting right now,
No,
Gene.
I'm
I don't mean
you
to.
know me. I'm with it. I'm with it.
Like,
Let's go. I'm with it.
yo, man, is tough because again, the whole point of money trees is planting seeds, planting ideas. And I was so hyped to have you come on this episode. We had this scheduled before we even knew about the Snoop drop. Serendipity just happened to happen the next day. Like, got to big you up and just talk about how ill that is, because that is fucking crazy. You just said it. You're ending the sound season. Shout out to sound. I feel like despite any of the reservations I have just about music NFTs and distribution, they are putting a lot of effort into community building and actually getting artists paid and being able to put money into their pockets. And you can never knock those types of efforts. It's just like, man, the audacity of some people. But you know what? I digress. This tangent, it may not be over, but I'm gonna move to something else. Black Dave, you know what I have not heard you talk about in any of the spaces that I've been in with you?
Sounds exciting.
Your full on origins. Not your origins in Web3, but like, how did you get started as a musician? Where's the earliest? I think I just asked it too. I like this question. What is your first artistic memory?
Um, so you know what's funny is up until so all through element I know a lot of people like have these like really crazy stories like I was 3 years old, singing songs with my mom. That's not me. I when I was a kid I played a fuckload of sports and I played a fuckload of video games. And I played soccer for a long time, probably about 10 years or so. I played soccer. I played like in high school, and once I picked up skateboarding, I was skating the week of soccer tryouts my sophomore year after I was on the team my freshman year. And I remember going to the practice a week after tryouts. So like tryouts are fucking over. And I'm like, yo, so I played on the team last year. Y'all got me. And they were like, nah, you cannot join the team after missing tryouts for the first. All right, cool. And I just kept skating and I stopped playing soccer. That's how I stopped playing soccer. Super random story. And I know it has nothing to do with music. But near that time as well is when I started to explore the idea of playing music. I was going to Warp Tour. I was a Hot Topic kid back then. I would like, I had like long hair, like maybe like not long, like, past my ears. And I would like straighten it sometimes and just like have long, straight, like terrible scene black dude hair. It's the worst fucking hairstyle. And I was going to hardcore shows in my city and stuff like that. And so what happened was a couple friends of mine from my class who I wasn't actually going to hardcore shows with, they were just my friends. We started a punk band together. We were all three of us were in this one class together. It was like an English class. A random story about that class. I remember being in class one day and we had like tons of snack machines around the school. And I remember one of my friends had like dared me to like snort sour Skittles, like sugar or whatever. It was the worst fucking idea. I got kicked out of class. I used to get kicked out of class all the time for just like nothing crazy. Like I wasn't like I was like light class clown. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like there are people who
Dave,
were
hold on,
about that
hold on.
life.
Be
Go ahead.
be honest with me. Were you
No,
Naruto
no, no, no,
running through
no.
the
I was not.
halls?
I was not. Have always I've always been too cool to do stuff like that. So like I've always thought that like I dress cool. I've always thought that I'm like a funny, charismatic person. I've always thought that like I'm good at stuff. Like the stuff that I like to say that I don't do things I'm bad at, and that's why I'm good at everything. And so like I've always felt like that. So no, no, no. My anime love was just something that I did at my house and something that like I would go to my friends' houses and we would watch. But it was
Yo,
never
I'm not knocking it. I just wanted to know. You
no, I
said
don't
you had
do
the
it. I
scene
don't do
here.
it. I'm
Look,
always I've
I'll tell
always
you
been too
this.
cool for it.
I was playing football and in Yu-Gi-Oh Club at the same time. It was a very, very confusing
Hey.
time for my social status. But
So I joined a band with my friends, punk band, on the Yu-Gi-Oh vibes. Love Yu-Gi-Oh. I used to when I lived in Florida, there was a comic book store across the street, and I would play Pokemon there, like Pokemon card game. And then I got into Yu-Gi-Oh through the Pokemon trading card game. And I have a song that's about damage counters actually. Like when you play Pokemon cards, you would put like these little like they're not marbles, but they're something like that. And they pretty much tally up the damage. There are some people who had like they look like little pogs and they would have like 10 or 50 or 100 or whatever. And so I have a song called 10s, 50s, 100s. And it sounds like it's about money, but it's actually about Pokemon damage counters. And the whole second verse is a Yu-Gi-Oh battle.
yeah, that's wild. That's also why I couldn't get into Pokemon. I really didn't like the counters, but keep
Yeah,
going. Keep going.
it was such an ugly experience, right? Like everything else was amazing. They had the whole like badge system, and like you would go to like the bookstore, and like there would be that guy who had like that like specific deck in order that you had to beat in order to like get the gym badge, and you get the gym badge in the book. Yeah. Oh man, Pokemon was so perfectly set. Damage counters were like the one thing that really ruined it. But it was either that or like you had a calculator and you were playing Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And you were like, "Oh, okay, you did 4,100 damage. Okay, I've got 3,900 hit points left." Like so you had to pick a side. Tangent, but I played in a punk band with my friends. It was like a political punk band. It's so interesting how people who cannot shape politics have really strong feelings about politics, but I guess that's also why we have really strong feelings about them is because we can't shape it. And like when you think about like punk rock in general, like punk rock is always people who really had no power to shape a lot of it, making music that reflected their frustrations with that. And I think there's, not to be like rappers or rock stars, but I think there's something similar amongst like rap music. And of course, like, punk rock was black music at a time and blah, 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 blah. Like, so I started out doing that. And then I was really into this band called Sky's Airplane. It was a two-person band. It was like electronic music mixed with like hardcore rock. And I started a two-person band with one of my friends, and I downloaded Fruity Loops, and we started making a two-person band that was like electronic drums, electronic synthesizers. Obviously, those are electronic synthesizers, and like I would do all the stuff in FL, and then he would play guitar, and then I would record vocals, and he had Cubase at his house, and he lived like in the country, and you would have to like I would have to like drive like 40 minutes to his house to like go like record these songs and practice. And then I remember I would bring my desktop computer with me, and I would set it up at his house, and we would record, and then I would take it home, and then when we played shows I would have to take my desktop with me to shows, and I'd have like behind me I'd have like my desktop with the monitor sitting on top of it, and I would be like loading up the Fruity Loops files to play the songs in real time. And then I had this one song that I would play called Song Alpha, which is about a Pokemon battle actually, and this is like 2006. And I would play with a Guitar Hero controller. I would play the synth line with a Guitar Hero controller. And they're like Guitar Hero bands that exist, and they pretty much are all MIDI controllers, and they like each button would do a certain thing, and you could set the strummer to like do certain things, and then you could have the same thing with the drum set. And so I did that, and then I joined another band that started out as two people, but turned into a whole band called EVA that started in 2008. And I did that until around 2013 ish. Yeah, it was sick. That was like the wave. And so I actually started out just producing, but producing stuff for like heavy rock music and doing screaming vocals and then playing bass in rock bands. And then I got into rap probably around 2012. So like for me, like I'm a huge fan of like Tumblr rap because that was the era that I really got into it in. Even though I like started out listening to rap music in like middle school. So like as a kid, you listen to the music that your parents listen to, and then you start to decide what music you want to listen to. And there are a lot of kids who like love classic rock because they came up on classic rock listening to what their parents listened to. I wasn't that guy. I discovered Wu-Tang from this kid in my middle school class. His parents wouldn't let him listen to it because they were Muslim, and that made him want to listen to more. But I just really liked Wu-Tang, and he had an older brother who rapped who was like 6'4", and I thought he was like the coolest dude. And then I bought like the Wu-Tang fighting game on PlayStation and got super into Wu-Tang. Yeah, and now I'm a rapper who raps about anime, and I know there's a lot in between that, but once I got into rap music, that's pretty much what happened. I became like a SoundCloud producer, light SoundCloud rapper vibes, and then that just sort of kept progressing up to where I am now.
Fire origin story. It's always interesting thinking about like childhood and teenage rebellion and where that will manifest. Because hearing that story about like wanting to listen to the Wu Tang more because it was forbidden, I don't know. I never really had that. It was like I never wondered about things that I wasn't allowed to have. And then, which I know sounds strange, but also I feel like I had the opposite experience where I didn't listen to anything outside of rap until maybe like junior high school. And then I was like, oh, I'll never listen to Screamo. Like, this is crazy. And then I remember I listened to System of a Down. And I was like, whoa, the arrangement here is amazing. And their lyrics, like it's so politically charged and interesting. And okay, I've been sleeping on a whole entire genre, and that experience combined with getting Guitar Hero 3 and then what was it, Guitar Hero or Rock Band Beatles or whatever. Those completely opened up my music palette, and I was all the better for it. For someone that is not well versed in the space and a lover of System of a Down, what other bands should I go listen to after this episode?
You know, that whole like new metal era was really so interesting. But System of a Down is actually like super in a league of its own. Um, if when I was a kid, I listened to system. I had many System of a Down T-shirts. But there was sort of like this like standard new metal palette that you had, right? Like you were listening to I remember listening to I went and saw one of the first concerts I went to. I saw In Flames with oh god, it was at Myrtle Beach. It was like three other like really new metal bands. There's a band that I really like. I don't think they're a band anymore, but at the time they're called Protest the Hero. It was like a metal band. It was really, 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 really technical. It was so technical that they wrote the album sitting down and then learned how to play the song standing up. And it was really good. It was like a singing, screaming vibe. Obviously, like everyone who liked System of a Down loved like Linkin Park, loved Slipknot, loved Puddle of Mud, loved like all the regular new metal shit. But System of a Down, musically is in a league of its own. I think the personalities of all the guys in the band, Serge, I think Serge Tonkian, that's his name, the singer. I think he has like a solo thing that he does, and that might be worth checking out as well. So yeah, that's it.
Puddle of Mud is a hilarious band. Names are kind of fire. Like,
With two D's.
you know what? I forgot where I was looking at the other day, but I saw a poster with Prince Paul's group, Handsome Boy Modeling School. I
They
think they
were
were at
sick.
Brooklyn Bowl, and I'm just like, yo, that's such a fucking fire name. Okay, another question before we jump off top. What are some of your favorite band names ever?
I don't do like crazy band names. I love like simple band names. My favorite one of my favorite bands, period, and this might be worth listening to, is called Circle Takes the Square. If you remember like Hollywood Squares. Um, this is a band out of Savannah, Georgia called Circle Takes the Square. But like I actually don't think that much about band names. But Handsome Boy Modeling School is actually a crazy name now I think about it. But wow, that's a tough one. Circle Takes the Square is a fun one. Mm, 65 Days of Static is a name that I really liked. It's all one word. I thought that was cool. Stuff that's like that doesn't make sense. Um, those are the names that I like where I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense, or this has exclamation points. Like there's this band called Chick Chick Chick, and it's just three exclamation points, but you say chick like CHK, that's how they spelled it. And so they called Chick Chick Chick, and it was three exclamation points. So that was interesting. There's a band called Attack Attack, which had exclamation points. That was like the scene kid thing in MySpace times, like you were putting exclamation points on stuff. I had a clothing brand called The Comeback, and there was an exclamation point, and it was all one word because I thought like all one word and exclamation point was like the sickest shit back in those days.
There was definitely a phase where I was putting the upside down exclamation point as like some type of statement. What was it? Do you remember what your last MySpace song was before you stopped using the platform?
It was probably my band song. If not that, it was a song probably by the band The Devil Wears Prada or Dance Gavin Dance because those are like my two favorite bands at the time.
What was your MySpace layout?
I did a custom layout at the beginning, but I actually switched it up back to the OG MySpace vibe because I do this a lot now. Like I'm really about like mad simple shit and also like mad accessible shit. Like um not that I like, you know how like there's sort of this like era where a lot of people had private profiles. I was like, no, I want everybody to see what I'm doing everywhere I do something. I'm still like that. And so for me, like the default vibes are so fire. And I think when everyone in the MySpace era was doing all the coding and shit, which I was doing coding and stuff, but I actually was like in school for it. Um, like I was like, nah, I'm gonna just keep it simple and I'm gonna run with the OG shit. And so that's what I actually did. I wasn't the guy who had like an anime like MySpace profile. There were times where I'd put like Dragon Ball Z like gifs and stuff like in my description, but for the most part it was pretty default and I would have like short sentences and I would like yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think I would just flirt with girls on MySpace. Like that was really my thing was like Like, can I flirt with girls on MySpace? Because like I remember like Instagram's really good for this now. But like Instagram girl idea, like the whole idea of like hot girls like sort of like running the internet, like is a thing way more now than it was then. But like if you were like into like metal and shit, like scene girls were like the thing. So like there were girls who were like scene girls, and so you would just like try to like holler at scene girls on MySpace if you were like into that shit. So it's like like hey, you like black dudes vibes, which is so crazy now to
Oh,
think
you're
about
sick,
even
Dave.
asking
You're
that
sick. Let
question.
me stop you. It's recorded. I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. So you remember this is going on air.
On air, my bad. Run it back.
The original e-girls. Yo,
Yes.
man. I was definitely the kid with the Dragon Ball MySpace layout. You remember like Googling Super Saiyan 6 and it was the most
Yes.
fucking ridiculous, like crazy long white hair. You're like, oh shit, when is this dropping?
You
Anyway.
you remember, I don't know. So I got the internet. I had AOL. And a lot of people had AOL, obviously, but I'm that old. I'm old enough to have AOL, like getting the disc and like, doing the whole vibe. I would go in these chat rooms and like we would just talk about anime shit. And then there were like all these anime like text-based games that you could play, and you would like load up this bot, and the bot would pretty much read the chat, and then it would be like a fighting game. And like you could pick your anime character, and then you would like all like do the moves of the character. Like everyone knew the game. I don't know how. And that was a lot of fun. But I remember this thing happening where there was Super Saiyan, and then there was like if you were a half Saiyan, there was Super Saiyan as well, but you didn't have a J in it. So remember like there was like SSJ for like Super Saiyan,
Yep,
and
yep.
like you would, but like if you were a half Saiyan, you only went Super Saiyan without the J. And so this whole thing was like, what's the difference between a Saiyan with a J? It's like Saiyajin versus Saiyan, and like the half Saiyans were regular Saiyans without the J. It was so weird because I don't think that's true at all, but we definitely were
No,
running with
yeah,
that.
y'all definitely made that one up.
Wild times back in AOL.
Yo, that's crazy. I didn't even know that you could do it. Like, I had never even heard of that till just now. Well, MySpace was sixth, seventh grade for me. I was busy on Habbo Hotel and RuneScape. Man, I got scammed a lot on RuneScape. That's probably why I don't get scammed as much anymore. And like, I'm very privy on
Yes.
internet hacks. Like, my grandmother would let me buy some tokens. Oh man, somebody's like, yo, just send me your email and password and I'll give you 10x. I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, take that. Wake up the next day, whole account empty. Like, wait, Nana, I need more, please. I don't know what happened. Wild
So
times,
crazy.
man. Yo, it's crazy. I'm actually looking at the time, and we've been chopping for a minute. There was one thing in particular I want to get to before I let you get out of here, and this is something that me and you had talked about a little offline. You're really active in the space, like really, really, really active. I mean, we've talked about it on this episode. You posted today your space's schedule, which I think is even ill. One, that you're in demand that much. Two, that you have that much to talk about. And three, that people want to come hear you talk. But on the flip side, it's like, how do you find time to create when you're constantly in demand like this? How do you find that balance? Well, what things do you say no and yes to? And that's one thing that I'd say is a constant in all of the business or like self-help books that I've read in the last decade is one of the main things is figuring out how to say no and what to say no to. As you're getting busier, I know the phone's going to be going crazier after the Snoop Dogg look. It was already going crazy. How are you approaching that balance? How are you approaching finding the what to say no to?
I do a bad job of it mostly. I'm actually getting better at saying no to things. But like something like spaces, a lot of people hate the whole like I got to be on Twitter all day to sell NFTs thing, and I get it, but I also have seen immense value from it. My issue now is trying to figure out when and how I should pull away from spaces. I think one thing that differentiates me from a lot of the people who I consider my peers or whatever is like they don't do this on the ground thing as much as I do, right? They do a lot of like building and blah blah blah. And for me, every song that I've released in Web3, I wrote during my time in Web3. and that's how it's going to be. Even though my song on the Snoop mix was an older record, from pre Web 3, I didn't release that as a song, and I won't ever release that song as an NFT, like in my current state of mind. I'll say that just in case. But like, for me, it's been, is this is this going to be beneficial? Is this going to be interesting? Because interesting has become a thing. I think, I was talking to somebody about how last year on Clubhouse, every NFT room was interesting. This year on Twitter Spaces, one out of every 10 is interesting, right? You'll see 20 rooms. I follow too many people, but you'll see like 20 rooms across the top on your spaces. And like one of them is good, or one of them is even a good title. That doesn't mean the room's good. That just means the title's good. And then you go in and it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I hate labels. Like NFTs are gonna kill labels. Labels are dumb. Da da. Da. And it's just like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like labels could be super useful in Web3, but that's probably a different space for a different day. But like it's I'm getting better at it. Um, Normally now when people hit me up, yo, Dave, I want to chat with you about this thing I'm doing. I say, look, I don't want to join any teams. I don't want to become a part of any DAOs. I don't want to become like I don't want to be on any projects. I just want to make music. And I talk about how I am doing like 12 things right now, but I really want to be doing three. So it's like, kudos, Project Pharaoh, super pumped to do. I want to make music. I'm super pumped to do that. And if I can just do those two things sustainably, I would be the happiest fucking artist. But I'm also like, I'm on the team of Kindred Hearts, which is an amazing project. I am partnering with a couple of platforms to release some things soon. I, am on a bunch of other platforms and stuff like that. So it's like, and I'm in some DAOs and I'm part of like projects within those DAOs and stuff like that. And so soon I'm just going to be like, look, like I said at the beginning of the year that I'm trying to surpass Latasha, but y'all keep asking me to do stuff that doesn't help me surpass Latasha. So what's up? And so eventually I think I'm just going to get so fed up and like probably reach like a burnout, in like the middle of the summer and have to take like a month off and be super pissed. And then when I come back, I'll be like saying no to everybody. But I haven't actually reached that point yet.
If you have the foresight to see that that may happen, you have the ability to stop that from happening now.
That's a
Not to
bar.
get all fucking Yoda-y, but if you are aware, and that's one thing just from like the management perspective that I was talking to you about. It's like, try to figure out what you need to be supported with, like who you need to come in and how they can support you as opposed to vice versa. You're a constant giver, and give and take is what leads to balance. Like taking is not always a negative thing. And, that word can get a negative connotation. But I think for you, if you're aware that that point is on the horizon, that there's no need to reach it. It's like, yo, you can find ways to prevent that right now. I guarantee there are some young, hungry Web3 artists that would be down to come figure out, like, yo, how can they help and support what it is that you're building in a way that's conducive to both of you. And then the second thing I want to add to that, shout out to Latasha. Yeah, we haven't mentioned her on the show in a while. That's alpha. Maybe I can't say that other piece. But in regards to the surpassment, Dave, I tell everyone this. We can only ever surpass ourselves. We
Let
are
him
who we
know.
compete against. However, you can definitely be inspired by the leaders and the other people in the space. And the benchmarks that Latasha has set are benchmarks that you can surpass, and they will be better than the Black Dave that we were talking to, or they will be further along than the Black Dave we were talking to today has reached. I hope in playback that sounds like what it is I'm trying to say. But I think you get my point there.
Yeah.
Those would be my only two additions on the outlook that you provided. This has been a fucking ill conversation. I am glad that we got to give you your flowers. I'm also glad we got to kind of get in and address some of the bullshit. I don't normally like to do it. I say that by giving it energy. It's like a waste of my time, to your point about the Twitter spaces and there being an abundance on them. I want anyone who comes and listens to a Money Trees episode to feel like they gained a lot of valuable knowledge about the guest. And I try to focus it on the guest and bring unique perspectives and unique answers out of the guest. So when we go on our tangents about the space, it's not always what this particular show is about. However, motherfuckers tried to play you today, and I'm not here for that, man. You deserve it.
Crazy.
You are fucking working here.
On the
And
burner account too.
it's always those accounts with like 433 following, 8 followers. The tweets are only you. It's like that's their specific burner to go and talk crap to you. That's also, again, a conversation for another day. You were dropping bars on people needing labels, people needing distribution, people needing support in the space. Doing it all on your own is how you get burnt out. But the pseudonymous and anonymous nature of the Web3 space be killing me too. Because there's a lot of people hiding behind their NFT, talking a lot of smack without having their face up there, knowing that nobody's ever going to see them in the real world. A conversation for another day. Black
Absolutely.
Dave, everybody on the show has to answer 2 questions before they go. The first question is going to be, what is your seed phrase? And now I know in crypto, Web3, your seed phrase is normally your account recovery key. I just don't think that that's a scary enough term for something that's so important. If you lose your account recovery key, people can steal all of your assets, your cryptocurrency, your NFTs, etc. Here on Money Trees, we have repurposed seed phrase to be a saying, a quote, a slogan, a lyric, a motto that you live by that embodies your approach to your art, career, and to your craft. Black Dave, what is your seed phrase?
You know, since entering Web3, something that I've been saying a lot is real niggas don't need PFPs. And that is has been my seed phrase. I think all through the space is like I'm gonna just be me. I'm gonna just do me. That's like the goal, and is always gonna be the goal, and is always gonna be the way I present myself. So, hopefully, anytime you encounter me, I'm being the real nigga that is not hiding behind the PFP. And that's my seed phrase.
Yo, I fuck with that, man. I've gone on to say it that like I don't think that there's anything wrong with okay, so like there's positive pieces to having a NFT as your PFP. But I think that the where I draw the line is when you associate your identity with an NFT. You're associating your identity with a group of people that you have never met, and on one hand, you call it community. You know what? I'm not going to say what it sounds like to me, but I'm just going to agree with you there
Yes.
that your identity should remain yourself online, IRL. And maybe we'll look back at this and we'll look at this episode and be like, wow, we really were the old man get off my lawn group, and everyone in 30 years will be little cartoon characters and we won't know what anyone looks like because we'll all be in the metaverse. And I don't know. I hope it's not 30 years. Hopefully it's like, how old am I? 20s. I hope it's like at least 65 more years before that happens, so that way
You want
I'm
to be
not
out the
around.
way. You're like, I got to be out the
Yeah,
way.
I'm like, let me be gone, bro. Like, let me not even be a hater or whatever the hell the. What, so yo, it's kind of interesting, right? And this is a complete tangent, but it's like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. So we're just gonna go like A, B, C, and D again. Like, when was Gen A? What year was that? When did we start tracking the generations? So 60 years from now is gonna be Gen Delta.
Yeah,
No,
you'll
is
be
it
through the
15?
alphabet a
I don't
couple
know, man.
times.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, I'm super digressing. My second question is, we're going to have the one of one number 52 Money Trees note go up for sale after this episode. What is the listing price of your note going to be?
I was um I was thinking about this morning, and I think the number that I want to go with is 0.222 Ethereum, please. No real reason, just was throwing out numbers to myself this morning, and I think that's gonna be a good one. And then I'm gonna try to keep track of it, and if someone gets it, I wanna give them something in the future for supporting you and supporting me.
I love it. I love it. Black Dave actually just leaked some alpha. And I've been talking about this with some of the previous guests, but it's interesting, right? And we talked about earlier where it's like, how do you be successful in this space without constantly being on Twitter and constantly wanting to promote and actually being able to create and be thoughtful in your approach. The one thing I know for me that I've like, or that I can do better on for sure, is the marketing of this project. And sometimes I've written maybe like 3 threads in the last 4 months about it, which isn't a frequency enough that will lead to exposure. But at the same time, it's like, yo, I'm busy ideating or being creative, and I have to find what that balance looks like. And I've been thinking, like, okay, well, my thought behind people buying these NFTs was if you listen to the episode, there would be a gem or something that you connected with that would implore you to want to own a piece of that content. I wasn't necessarily focused on some consistent utility or like having to attach a reward to it. One, because I think Fernando's drawings are fire. Two, because I think that the conversations that I have value to whoever's listening. But I've started playing around with like, okay, well, that's the base concept, but it would also be pretty ill to add some layers to that. So I've started getting actual money trees notes made up, like physical bill prints that resemble actual currency, like nicer than even what fake currency is, like trying to get as close to the same material as possible. But then also the idea of like, yo, when you buy one of one, that like a Black Dave Money Trees one of one, it's separate than any of the other Black Dave um, IP. We can say it's part of this other garden. And thinking like, yo, what can me and you both offer to this one of one holder that adds another interesting layer to this token? And I don't quite know what it is yet, but I love that you were thinking about that. And so that was another tangent, some little alpha. Maybe I'll clip that and share that and use that as a little promo thing. I don't know. Anyway,
I
G,
love it.
I love chopping with you, man. This is like it feels like our regular our regular offline conversations,
Yeah,
which is that was the impetus for this show. Was like I talked to so many fucking ill people just throughout my day to day, and I wish we could record those conversations. One, because I think it's educational. Two, a lot of times somebody will find some entertainment out of it. Three, it gives you an inside look at like how we're dealing with it when we're not necessarily trying to be on. Where outside of my introduction, which I always go hard for, I fucking love giving my guests amazing intros. The rest of it is just like my basic ass phone call voice, or not even a phone voice. I was watching a show. This is genuinely how I sound IRL. This has been another tangent. Dave, fucking incredible, man. I cannot wait to see all the rest of the things that you're building in this space. I'm very excited to see your projects, your growth, your everything, G. This is going to be an amazing year for you. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure.
I appreciate you, man. Until next time.
Peace, peace, peace.